SEO this week. Welcome everyone to episode 206. Oh man, crazy. Time's going on by pretty fast already this year. And so, as we're 206 episodes deep, and that's probably not the exact number, but it's the one we're going with. We find it more and more complicated to find topics and stuff. So, today I wanted to let out a shocking information about GMB that the SEO crowd has decided to grace us upon with their knowledge, and so we're going to get on with that. Hey Jeremy, hey Ben, thank you guys for joining me. Appreciate you. As always, unless we have any questions, I'll cut the show short. If you're listening on the podcast, you can watch live at just doing Digitaleer.com if I post early enough, or you can watch on YouTube, set the subscriptions. Otherwise, just catch the download in your podcast and you'll be just fine. So with that, I want to go ahead and jump to my screen, get some new stuff out of the way that I think is pretty interesting. First is the Google's update, or Bing has updated their API. I don't know if you guys are using this before, but there's a URL submit, kind of like the one that's in Google Search Console. The limits are almost the same. I think they may be a little bit tighter, but you can submit through an API or manually if you want to your URLs into Bing. This is actually really important, being to stay on top of that, especially if Bing sends you any amount of converting traffic, because their index tends to happen that it drops pages sometimes. And I think it's more of a trust thing with Bing. If you're publishing all the time and you're getting decent CTR and stuff, and you have the right things in your code, mainly Dublin Core, you can index in Bing pretty well. If you're missing all that stuff, or you're not submitting on a regular basis, then it makes it a little bit harder to index, or your sites will fall out. Well, what they've done now is actually added a new API. It's a Bing Content Submission API. So before, when I was doing on-page changes in Google, for instance, I could change my H1 tags and clean up the H2s, 3s, and 4s, make it all relevant, submit it to Google, and then I would see changes right away. And that's kind of where Bing is going with this. Webmasters fix their content. If they republish a page, let's say you're just doing a whole bunch of site update stuff and you're not necessarily writing new ones, but you can submit everything through this Bing Content Submission API. I am going to figure out the JavaScript or the JSON version of this, and then create a sheet for everybody, a Google sheet. Once I know for a fact that it's working, that'll allow us to implement this, and then I'll reach out to the folks over at SEO Tools for Excel and see if they can implement this. They have the Bing part already in there, the Webmaster version, the original API that I referenced, the URL submission is what it's called. I want to see if they can add this one in there too. And that SEO Tools for Excel or a Google Sheet will actually be a lot better. It doesn't seem like it's going to be all that complicated, really. I just got to get the fields in place and then put the script in there, and then we'll be off to the races. So we'll knock that out for you guys and let you take care of that. Most SEOs kind of balk at Bing, right? So not all of them are experts at Bing until they have they're challenged in Facebook, or people go, oh yeah, I leverage Bing a lot and I'm making a whole lot of money to it, and then everyone else jumps on the bandwagon and says that they do it. But as a matter of fact, its point of fact is most of us don't even pay attention to Bing. And I think that's really a mistake. So especially if you're in e-commerce, electronics and fashions, there's more money in Bing for you than there is in Google. Back when I saw the last data on this, for those particular niches, there was a $500 spending difference between a Bing user and a Google user in conversion. So, it makes sense to go after them. And that traffic that you get from Bing, while be it is not as much as you could potentially get from Google, helps you actually rank in Google too, because you're sending all those signals get sent back to Google through their various browsers or whatever. And it's traffic to your site. It builds trust and authority. It's kind of like how, you can't see that CTR works for rankings and traffic works for rankings, and then ignore the fact that Bing actually sends traffic. So it's kind of an afterthought for most of us. There's not a lot of audience there. When you look at it in a perspective basis, like Google users versus Bing users, that perspective makes it kind of like, why am I paying attention to it? But 3% of a few billion is still a lot. So check it out, and just submit your stuff. It's not hurting it. You don't have to go in there and optimize for it or anything. Just submit your stuff and you're going to be okay, and you get the benefit from it. So that's that. I will share these links, by the way, on the Digitaleer site once I get the page published. Next is the Schema.org testing tool is out. It's marked as beta. If you don't know, Google is killing the structured data testing tool, the Google structured data testing tool. If you notice this is the Google structured data testing tool. They gave it to Schema.org so that you can put it up and keep it live and keep the test alive. And that is awesome. One thing you have to note, though, is that now this will be run based off of Schema.org. So everything that's in Schema.org, if you're using an API testing tool like Sitebulb, for example, then you're going to see the same thing in this here. It does not necessarily count what Google's doing, because there are some differences. There are some fields and stuff that Google uses that is not necessarily standard in Schema.org. And so you're going to have to still test your schema in the rich snippet testing tool. I know it's harder to read into that tool. I know it's kind of a pain. But I think you'll find that the combination of these tools makes manual schema process a whole lot better, which is a good thing. And speaking of manual schema, Rank Gear, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I have the schema tool over here at rankgear.com. Don't mind the sales page. I think I still have to finish the bottom. Yeah, I got to get some imagery here down in the bottom. But the schema tool is up and running. You just click on schema tool in the menu. You'll come in. If you're not a member already, you just register. You'll go straight to a PayPal page. I'll log in with my account right here while you're watching. And then it's $57 a month, I think, is what it's set at. But it's designed to make writing schema for you a whole lot easier. One of the new things we implemented into this was drop and drag. So if you've all paid attention to how I write schema, it's really built out, right? And originally, when we first launched the tool, you couldn't drop and drag, you couldn't move things around. But now we can actually do that. I'm just going to put some filler in here so you can kind of give you a little bit of, give you an idea of what the heck I'm talking about. Copy that again. $1 million. All right, and so now I can move these around how I want them inside of the fields. And let's say I'm missing something and I want to do, I'll just do the same as for the sake of the demonstration here. And before, when I click on about, you see it put it in a weird place. But what if I wanted it to be a part of, I don't know, let's say I want it to be a part of, I want it to be part of the address. See? Obviously, that's not the way you do it. But I got that fixed now, and we got that set up and running, so you can actually drag that around and do and put it where you want it. So if you've ever followed me and I've showed you the nesting of schema and how to do a web page with the in part with has part and all that stuff. All that is all facilitated now so that you can do it a whole lot better. We have the validate button is going to go to the new Schema Editor tool. I know it says in beta, but it's the Google one. So as long as they didn't tinker with too much code, we're going to be okay. And you can test it as well, or you can actually merge a whole bunch of these if you want to into the @graph, which is a kind of a cool feature. So we can do job posting in here, merge @graph, and that'll go down here, right? And then do an article. Let's do an article about that job, merge @graph. You see everything is combined. And as you do that and you plug away and you do these things, you can do all that stuff, and it's good. And then we have the downloads in there so you can save them for now on your computer. What we're going to add is actually templates into this thing, and you'll be able to come in here, fill all this stuff out, and say, and then save it as a template. So if you do like I do, you're working on one client site, all the organization and all that other stuff's not going to change. So why would you want to redo all that? You just create a template and then save it in here, and then come in and change the sections that you need to change, and then download the new version, and it makes it a whole lot easier for you. So that's the next thing after we get that whole drop and drag done across all of these. We got 13 of them, but you see we're trying to do a whole bunch of them, but we got pretty much most of these all done. All the big ones, the useful ones are done and ready to go. So if you are legit actually handwriting schema, you can kind of get you away from that a little bit. You don't have to worry about the code. You just fill in the stuff and worry about placement and all that stuff, and not worry about curly brackets and commas. We solve that problem for you, and we kept it cheap too. So it's not it's not based off of, if you're deploying to 1,000 pages and you pay this much, and if you want the really cool features, then you got to pay 10 times as much. And if we delete it, if you cancel your account, you're going to lose all your schema, and then that's not the case here. That's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we do. Is it better for continuity program? Sure it is. But it's not, honestly, I think it's not cool. I paid for that schema. I should be able to keep that schema on my website regardless if I do or do not need your service anymore. And we're kind of going along that lines. Will that change if we deploy through, I don't know, if we start making a button so you can deploy through Google Tag Manager or WordPress plugin? Probably. But we at least make it so that if you publish via the WordPress plugin, for instance, or GTM, for instance, it's sent to those systems and you get to keep it, versus you just don't get to publish any new stuff with those systems, right? So that's kind of where we're going with that. So I hope you guys like that tool. All right. Going 12 minutes. Feels like for ages. Okay, so this is the last one. It's the Google GMB map. Shocking information produced by Search Engine Land. They've declared it's official that if you have your keywords in the business name, you're actually going to rank higher in Google Maps. I know, it's shocking. I can't believe that that's the case. Like, who here, if you're listening, if you're in chat, can you believe that's the case? Are you totally shocked that if you add keywords to your business name, you're going to rank higher? Well, the white hat land is caught on, apparently. So Search Engine Land, and I'm not even going to grace these guys with traffic anymore. If you guys want to read the article, go ahead. Otherwise, just TL, too long, didn't read, marketing.com, TLDRmarketing.com. He kind of shares a lot of the stories that I find here for you guys. And you can read his summation. But in short, what they did is they stuffed the business name, and it went up, ranked higher. Then they removed all the stuffing from the business name, and all the rank dropped. And then they put the stuff back in, and then it all ranked higher. And somehow I don't know if it's dumbfoundedness or just plain blindness or whatever, but this has been Google's ranking system for Google Maps since it started. It's the number one thing. It's like putting your keyword in a title tag, and that's the number one thing you do. If you don't put your keyword in your title tag, then you're a big dummy. It's going to take you longer to rank, right? When you can just go for the go and put it right in there in the beginning. And that's the same with how they set up GMB. To me, it makes a whole lot of sense because, frankly, what else do they have? They can use your reviews, they can use your product description, your services list. They can look at your images, and they can look at the location of your map in proximity to the searcher. I understand all that, but at the end of the day, they kind of have to go, how are we going to rank these things? Because other than the reviews, and even to the reviews to some extent, the business owner can optimize those things. So do we do it based off of the description? Do we do it based off of the description and the number of services you have? And if it's the number of services, who says what services a plumber can do, and what is the optimal number that you should be looking for? And then you have the review stuff. You can send in optimized reviews and have the button clicks now with those what are those helpers that are in there now? So if you're if you do a 4-star review or a 5-star review, you get professional, timely, showed up on time, that kind of stuff. And you do a 1-star review is late, bad customer service, and all that stuff. Those cues, how much of that are they going to do? And at the end of the day, the number one ranking factor has long been the business name. And that's why you can search for something like Phoenix SEO, for example, and the first 10 or 15 maps in there are all Phoenix SEO. They don't even, it's the same for plumbers, it's the same for realtors, it's the same for locksmiths. Although locksmiths and garage drawers and even lawyers to that extent are policing the listings for Google a little bit better and finding a lot of the lead gen stuff. And the lead gen stuff is fine, honestly. If you can figure out a way to get a map verified, and you're doing lead gen and you're getting paid to do to collect leads from business owners or from a lead broker, then good on you. You're not spamming the maps. You're leveraging the system that's in place in order to make some money. There is at some point where it gets a little bit retarded, but as long as Home Advisor and Angie's List and all those types of sites dominate local search, then what else are people or businesses to do? And I think, honestly, if Google really was serious about fixing maps, they would actually remove the title of the business name title completely out of the algorithm, and make it so that you legit had to have a combination of optimized description and good reviews to rank. And if they did that and made it harder, they would clean up their maps problem. And then also, if they actually ranked local businesses' websites inside of the local business search versus all those directories, that the mapception situation would take care of itself on its own. But they're never going to do that, because if they do, then local businesses will pay less for Google ads, and then the maps system will no longer pay for itself with the paid maps promotions that you can get now, and local search will the revenue generated from local search will drop significantly, and that is a significant revenue generation tool for Google right now. So, what do we do? How do we approach this? So, one, you could file a DBA, so doing business as, and then add the keyword into your business name. Change your signage and stuff, change your letterheads, use that DBA on your electric bill, etc. And then change the name on your listing. More than likely, your listing is probably going to get suspended, so you're going to send all that images and proof and signage and DBA filing and all that stuff into Google, and they'll turn it right back on for you, and you'll get the immediate ranking boost just from doing that. It's not black hat. It's not illegitimate. That's the way the system is set up, so that you can accomplish it. If you don't want to do the DBA stuff, uh, which I don't know a whole lot of people who want to go through that process. It's not, as far as I understand, it's not very expensive. It's like $50 to do the DBA thing, but still, um, it's kind of a lot of a pain, right? Changing things and etc. to match that just for another map. But it's an opportunity. You can do it. You can push it through and see if it works, and legitimately have the keyword in there. Another thing is if you're just starting out a business, keep in mind the type of business you're going to have. If you're going to have an automotive shop, for instance, you want people to come to you, and more than likely, it's people that are going to be close to you, and they're probably going to find you on Google Maps. So make sure you have auto repair and stuff like that in your business name when you go ahead and make it already. Think about keywords. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, don't worry about keywords. You got to have branding." I mean, that's all good and dandy for organic, and I'm right there with you on organic. But when you're trying to get into Google Maps, you need to address that keyword thing because you're going to have some problems. It's not impossible to rank a non-keyword stuffed or keyword injected business map. It's not. It just takes more work. So, and like my analogy before, it's not impossible to rank without a title tag, without your keywords in the title tag. It is not impossible. But if you don't do it, you're just making the other stuff you gotta do just a lot more painful. So if you're just starting out a business, I would go with that and pay attention to that. Let me switch over to so you guys can see my pretty little mug. I know you all have been dying because I'm so sexy. All right, let's see. Christopher, GMB question. If a business changes its name, domain, would you create a new GMB or would you change the name of the old one? Services are the same, only four reviews on old. I wouldn't change it. If you have the map with the climate of how it is to get new maps and to verify them, and those map guys that are really deep into this, like every day they're looking for a new method to get verified because the old one got fried. And if you're in that space, you're already, you can feel the pain, right? Or if you buy maps and you pay $150 for a map listing, and then you change the services on it or something, and then it gets fried. So I would not even. I would keep it the ones you already have, and with the thing, the oh jeez, dinner, the one that you already have. I would keep that alive. I would just change the business name, and I would change the website URL. If you're going to change the website URL for this purposes, if I was doing a DBA so I can go on to GMB and change the name and add the keyword, I wouldn't mess with the domain name. I'll just leave it the same because the rest of the world is going to know you as who you are. So let's go with Digitaleer, my site, for example, right? Digitaleer.com. I have the logo in there. You can see that right there on the screen, on your screen, right? So you got Digitaleer. It would be nothing for me to go Phoenix SEO and web design and make that my DBA. And I could actually technically file as many DBAs as I want to under a business. As far as I'm aware, there's not any limit, right? So let's say I wanted to target, well, I do target four primary cities where we operate in. So you have Phoenix, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Yuma, and Tucson. I could actually have a DBA on file for all of those locations, and be able to legitimately put Digitaleer Tucson SEO, Digitaleer San Francisco SEO, Digitaleer Philadelphia SEO, and web design. You know what I mean? So, and I don't have to change the domain name at all. I can leave it right the same. So would Google penalize a GMB with a name change? More than likely, you're going to deal with a suspension. And it's just because the the I'm kind of trying to be politically correct, but the rah, these are my Google Maps, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to report everyone that I can crowd, um, have made it so annoying for Google at this point where they've set those systems up to, if you do almost anything inside of GMB, it suspends. I fixed the services in all my maps, and they suspended every one of my maps because I fixed the services. That's just the services. Now do the name change. I didn't. I changed the name and the location of my Olympia, Washington map because I no longer live or work in Olympia, Washington, but I wanted to keep the map, and I changed it to a service area, and then I changed the name, and they suspended it, and I had to re-verify. It's just kind of the nature of the things right now. I know people that are successfully changing business name every once in a while, or maybe even a lot, without getting suspension. But don't be surprised if it happens to you, and you're just gonna have to figure out a way to get the map re-verified. Um, I just send them my utility bills. Here's my utility bill. There's the business name. It's my location. It's mine. Turn that stupid thing back on, and they turn it back on for me. You could try that. What else? Any other questions? 26 minutes. We're doing pretty good. 26 minutes. I like it. I did a couple videos on Disavow Tool. Just kind of want to update you all folks on that if you have watched those videos. And I had some questions and people reach out in the comments in the YouTubes of what happened to those after the recrawl. So I recrawled them 3 times, and I recrawled the URLs that I disavowed in my disavow file, and I recrawled those 3 times with co-linkering. And the page is pretty much stuck in the 25 to 30 mark. So if you remember, I was on page 1. I got all this negative SEO, and eventually it dropped down to like position 60. I did the disavow of the negative SEO, and now it's at 25 to 30 is kind of where it's sitting at. I did go a little nuclear, so I could have removed a lot of domains or backlinks that were actually promoting the page up. But I think it's more the case that the page has lost its trust because this clown went out and made a whole bunch of domains on .india TLDs and linked directly to my page. And it wasn't just to me; it was pretty much a lot. It was a lot of people. If you're looking through, it's WordPress speed optimization services. There's a lot of people who are competing in there, providing that service, and all of those sites were hit to one extent or another. And you think through the process of elimination that you'd be able to find out who did it, but I think it's a little bit harder. If I was going to do that and I was going to negative SEO of everyone, I would do a little bit to myself to kind of sink that in there too, and then bury that with some really good links. And I think there's a couple people sitting on those pages or those SERPs that have actually that have done what I just said. But I can't pinpoint the exact person that did it. Neither here nor there. That service for me, it's 147 page speed optimization. Fix your WordPress site. I only work on WordPress sites. That's all I want to deal with. And I was like one of the first to come out with that service. And now there's a whole bunch of people running around. They're all experts, which is kind of, it's interesting to me because at the end of the day, when you do WordPress speed optimization, what do? Install a cache plugin. You make sure that the site is on a decent host. You make sure that the PHP is updated insofar as much as you can. And then you clean and optimize the minification on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And you set the cache. And if you do that and optimize your images, you've done page speed optimization. It's stupid easy. It's like, that's why I don't really charge that much compared to everyone else, because it really is that easy. There are some things that kind of make it a pain, and your theme breaks from CSS or JavaScript, and you got to know that and know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of, for the lack of a better term, shitheads out there taking advantage of the scare hysteria that is being created by the community in regards to Core Web Vitals, and just freaking people out and taking a whole lot of money in exchange for that. So don't think that you need to hire someone to do page speed optimization. Put on a host, get WP Rocket. For the most part, turn all of the settings on. Get an image optimization thing. I recommend Smush Pro. Optimize all your images. Put your site on Cloudflare to take care of the CDN and a little bit of the security issues from it, and you're going to be just fine. Totally fine. There are some nuances. There are some things you got to turn on, but and you'll know from your host and stuff, and that's plug and play. But if you don't have the time to do it, then give me some of your money. I'll do it for you. But just don't get ripped off. It's not a $200 job. It's really not for WordPress. All right, let me see. More questions. Jeff Meekin. Last week you said don't get cute with Google, and you add Search Console GA and don't worry about footprints. What footprints should you be concerned about? I'm assuming you're talking about PBNs and the use of private block networks. And those have been vilified, and PBNs don't work, and Google filters out PBNs. I can tell you that's complete and utter horse crap. But there are some signals that you can actually, figure out PBN networks if you wanted to, and you want to go down that rabbit hole. But as a user of PBNs, a couple things you need to just be aware that they kind of stand out, right? So one is the same look and feel of the website. So if every one of your websites looks like a 2021 WordPress theme, you got a problem. You need to fix that. If every one of your websites tends to use the same titles in your preview network, you got to fix that. You got a problem. Let's see, what are some other good ones that kind of really stand out? If you're using a lot of usernames and stuff, you got a problem. If you go to a website and there's no interlinking, you either have a guest post that's getting a website that takes money for guest posts, or you have a PBN and they haven't figured out the interlinking part yet. And so those are some of the big ones. Back when Google was frying networks and stuff, if you think a little bit harder, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's your DNS and your IPs and your hosting, and we put all that stuff together." And they look at all the magic and wonder that Google can spot. But the stuff that I just listed right there, that's how they're finding PBNs. Today and back then. So, just pay attention. You don't need to get tricky. You don't need to get stupid. As Jerry West puts it, PBNs and buying domains is real business shit. And so when you buy domains, put whois privacy on all your stuff, unless you just don't want it. You don't care if it's whois privacy, but put whois privacy on all your stuff and call it real business expense, which is really what it is. Or just register all your domains at Namecheap, and they give you privacy for free, not like Crap Daddy who charges you $10 a year for whois. So. Let's see. Elton Musa had a question about Google Groups. Found a Google group ranking on my SERP and was wondering if it's worth trying to create one too. Know any benefits? SEO, yes, it's a linking opportunity. It could be a decent tier 1. If you get a community going over there, it'll actually do pretty good. I'm in a Schema community over there, and I get notifications quite often coming out of that Schema community. Of stuff that's going on. So it's not dead, but it is a decent link platform. You're going to have to test it out and see the value. Maybe more than likely is probably going to be something like a tiered thing where you can add it from your Google stacks and stuff. I would not, I wouldn't go over there and spam it right now, but it's certainly worth it if you're in a market to create a group, air quotes. Like if I was doing a group for rehab, I create a group for rehab, and then when I post a new content on the main sites about rehab or rehab topic, I go in that group and put some links in there, and then use those as a tier one. That's a good question, Elton. I'll actually write that down. I'm doing it right now. If I have a pen, there it is. I'll write that down and I'll test that for the channel. So you guys know I have SIA. I do all that testing and stuff for them. I do some testing for IMG on occasion. So what I'll do is I'll write that down and I'll give you the results here on the channel. So what we're going to test is does a link from Google Groups move the needle. That's what I'll put. All right, and then I'll actually test no follow links. I'll check. I think that there's a thread comment system, so it might be a user generated content ref on there. I will test, and I'll see if we can try do follow. And then one other one, we'll see about using those as tier ones and see how well that works to pass on juice. Okay, so it's written down right there under my fat finger. Can't see it in the light. Okay, so that's there. So we are going to see the BS Core Web Vitals. Yeah, Core Web Vitals is coming, and I honestly think we've already seen some of it implemented because of the testing cycle and the way Google's pushing out updates right now. They announce them and then they say this is the December core update, this is the May core update. But in advance of that, they do testing and they release portions of it and they see how it's going to react. They reverse it, they fix things and release it again and blah, blah, blah. And that's why people are saying, oh, is there an update right now? I'm seeing all these changes. The core update's coming out. It's probably already active. It's just not officially in the wild right now. At the end of the day, if your site was loading in 10 seconds and all your competition is loading in 3 seconds, if you fix your site to load in 2.5 seconds, which is faster, you're going to see a ranking improvement. If your site was loading in 6 seconds and everyone else is loading in 5 and you all fixed your sites, you're not going to see any improvement out of it. That's the end of the day. That's what's going to happen with Core Web Vitals. That's, can you think back to another instance of where they did that? I can. It's HTTPS. Oh, excuse me. Regarding Core Web Vitals, have you heard of tried NitroPack.io? CDN system is supposed to get close to 99%. So it's not a CDN. And yes, we've actually used it and implemented it, and then we canceled it. And there is an improvement because they've actually put optimization elements into it, right? Like caching and minification and all those cool things. It's all in there. But the trick that they were doing, from what I understand from all the blogs, is basically they're using code to get the browser to actually use different core threads of the processor. And so when that did it, it made the site pass the test a lot better. Granted, the pages were faster, but I can still do faster with WP Rocket and a good host than paying for a subscription for NitroPack. It's just more expensive. If you're limited to a crappy host, you can't move for whatever reason, NitroPack might actually do some use for you. Just kind of play along with that and screw with the test results. If you have a client that all they care about is test results, NitroPack an option for you. But perfect, from my perspective, grades are for suckers, right? I mean, well, school kids and suckers, and so, yeah, I even stress the 99%. So if they were using a thing to quote unquote trick or change the way page loads so that it passes the test in order to give Google what they want. That's fine. That's really cool. They figured that out. From a page speed optimization thing, I can still optimize it better with WP Rocket, and even better if I use W3TC, W3 Total Cache. If I optimize a site with that, I blow all those plugins away. The downside is when I'm doing that, if I have a client that doesn't know how to mess with that tool, they'll actually break their website. So I'm very, very careful when I use W3 Total Cache. Let's see. Do you know any techniques to check if you have a keyword cannibalizations on your site? Your Search Console is really going to tell you that pretty fast. So if you're getting a lot of traffic and Google's messing around and flipping-flopping pages and testing for keywords, go into your Search Console, select the query. And then it'll change that filter, and the standard one is date, right? So 3-month period or 90-day period, and it'll add a filter for that query. The next thing you do is click the Pages tab. If there's more than one URL, you got keyword cannibalization issues. You can kind of dink around with that a little bit for other things, but the best way to do that is if you see a whole lot of bouncing. And your pages are doing blah 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 in your rank tracker. Figure out the queries that are doing that. Find the one that's most, or 2 or 3 of them that are the most important to you, and do what I just told you. Change the filters in Search Console. It's going to, and if you see more than one URL, you got keyword cannibalization issues. There's some other ways you can do it. You can run like a site bulb and see if you're addressing all the same or keywords in title tags, meta description, and H1s, and that could be subtle, but really that Search Console tool is actually pretty decent for spotting that kind of stuff. If you need me to do a demonstration of that, I can actually do it. I do have a prospective client call today. Let me bring it up. Let me see if I have any keyword cannibalization. I'll show you Digitaleer. Don't worry. It's not impressive at all. Here's Search Console. You see this. All of these were all like, oh, you're failing. You're horrible. Then they all magically cleared themselves up. But go to Performance. And then you get the last 3 months. All right, and you see your impressions and your clicks. All right, so here, Digitaleer, I just I don't care. So it's not really ranking for much outside of some lead gen pages. But we got Phoenix SEO. So let's pretend I'm worried about cannibalization Phoenix SEO. So I'm gonna click on that, and it's gonna set that query into the filters. Now you click on Pages, and it's only got the one page, so I'm good. I'm going to clear that query. I'm going to go back to queries. Let's do another one. WordPress Speed Optimization Service. Click on Pages. Only one page. I'm good. Not cannibalizing anything. Let's go queries again. Keyword Research Services. This might be one. Let's click on Pages. Two URLs. So what do I see here at the 2 URLs is the trailing slash. So there was something at one point where both of these worked. Let me open up in a new tab and see. Yeah, it forces redirect. And open a new tab, and it's correct. So what was happening here is that I wasn't on top of my force redirect for the trailing slash. And you see I had an issue, fixed the issue, and everything came back just fine. Let's try another one. It's not like I have a whole lot of selection here to try to find. Page speed optimization service. Pages. Yep. It's the WordPress one. It's one. I think that's it. That's all I got. I don't have a whole lot of. I'm not trying to rank a bajillion pages. Let's see. This will be a good one. Phoenix. See, this is be fine. So, SEO agency in Phoenix, but I see or in Arizona, but I see the Phoenix page, but I have an Arizona page, so that could create some keyword stuff issues for me down the road. If I use this query, SEO agency in Arizona, on the Phoenix page and my Arizona page, I could create some keyword cannibalization just through the use of anchor text. So that's kind of weird, but that's cool. So hopefully you guys get the point of how to do that. Then add a click filter to the query table. You actually could. You can do click-through range if you wanted to, CTR stuff. Playing with that data is actually pretty cool. Bear in mind, it's based off of a database of sites that is not what is run on Google search. So they're supposedly tied in together, but you can submit in there and say, and they'll tell you that your page is indexed. When you go to the SERPs and it's not there, and versus if I see it, you can go to the SERPs and see a URL there, and Search Console will tell you it's not indexed. That's because they're running off of two different databases. So this numbers game and this URL stuff is not 100% foolproof, but it's a really easy way to, just do some quick spot checks and find keyword cannibalization problems. And that stuff is, like Sam said, keyword cannibalization is inevitable. It really is. So like I do a post about page speed optimization, and then I do how to optimize your speed by fixing your images, how to page speed optimization via minification, or using JavaScript combined in order to optimize your page speed. Eventually, all of those will create some level of cannibalization. And you just take care of that by making sure that you're always linking to your primary money site with your primary keywords, or your primary money page with your primary keywords, and you'll be internally, and you'll be just fine. Let's see. Does Google treat the trailing slash non-trailing staff? Yep, I sure do. As you saw right there, that in that example, it showed you there was the exact same URL, right? As a novice, regular internet user would look and go, this is the same URL. It's just the trailing slash isn't there. That's how Google looks at those two. So you got to be on top of that trailing slash thing. You just got to, because it just gets so convoluted and messy. And next thing you know, Google's ranking half of them on your site without the trailing slash, and half of them with, changing your canonicals issues and all that madness. Get your ducks in a row. Get your technical stuff. That's a real easy fix. Force a trailing slash, or don't have it there at all. But either way, make a decision and live with it. Clint, what if you have a lot of content on a website? Lots of content. If you're dealing with a lot of content, 200 articles. Let's say you did 200 articles on page speed optimization. You got to pick a primary. You got to pick the winners. And what is all those things supposed to be about? If you have that many articles on a website, you're probably a web page optimization, sales service, and all of those pages should interlink to each other, and they should link to your primary money page for your primary set of keywords. So in that case, page speed optimization, that'd be the primary term, or page speed. Well, page speed optimization. Well, page speed would work. You can do page speed, and that would be what your website is about. My website is about page speed. I have this page speed optimization service. My page speed optimization service has a subpage about my WordPress page speed optimization service. And then I can do a whole bunch of articles about image optimization, CSS, HTML, minification, JavaScript, minification, JavaScript, CSS combined, all that stuff, right? And I get those 200 articles, but as long as they're all interlinking to each other and then interlinking to the primary money page, then I'll be okay. They're not entirely going to whack each other out for the same keyword. Just because you do page speed optimization for images and you do page speed optimization of HTML minification tips, those two won't rank for page speed optimization, but they will for optimization of images and optimization of through minification, right? Let's see. Example, trying to rank for best PC games. Keep an eye on the clock. Got 5 minutes. Trying to rank for best PC games. Also have supporting pages for best PC for action games. Blah blah blah. The main page does not appear. Well, number one, best PC for games. Uh, build some backlinks. Like, there's no way. You get 600 pages to get in there, right? So, let me see. Let's go best PP. Best PP. What do you got? Best P. Search for best PC for games. Best PC for games. Competing pages is. It doesn't even give me a number. Oh, that's interesting. Boom. 623 results. 60,000 results in exact. And the rich snippet has the number for the rest. So, you got PC Gamer, Tech Radar, Tom's Guide, Best Buy, PC Mag, twice, ING, CNET, and that's page one. So my point is you need some backlinks. You need some keyword stuffing. You need some backlinks. And when I say keyword stuffing, I'm not talking about hiding your keywords in blank. If you watch the SEO Fight Club, I think it was last week or the week before, Fight Club, we went over games niche, and I think a couple of others were showing how those sites are ranking by increasing their keyword density by putting keyword instances up in their code, right? So, for example, typically you said games in an article, 1,000-word article. Let's say you said it 15 times. That's natural, but these pages have like 1,000 instances of the word games all across your page. You got to do tricks like that. You got to do a whole lot of backlinks. You're not going to rank in that market without some money and time and a whole lot of optimization effort. Just know that right now, because you're going after best of, you're going after affiliate things, and you're going after 800-pound gorillas, and that's kind of the perfect storm where that's a long-term play. Be patient with it. And just keep building, and keep plugging away, keep optimizing, keep adding more. Eventually, you're going to get into the top 100, and then once you're in the top 100, then you have somewhere to actually focus a little bit more using a tool like Quora or Correlite or whatever, or your brain. But yeah, don't get into markets like that brand new. And don't get in there with an expectation that if I make the page, Google's going to show it. It's not the case. I've been in the rehab market for quite some time. Working on a site right now, trying to get into the Miami rehab space. Some keywords in there. Page still isn't showing. And I've been there. I've been ranked before. I've ranked pages before in the first page for Miami-based research pages. I know what's involved in it. And this page is still not there. And that's because I just haven't spent enough money on links. The right time, in the right place to push it up is it's kind of where it's at right now, right? So, and I know that, I understand that, and I'm going into it with that understanding that I'm not in the top 100 yet. And you got to be in that time frame, be in that mindset, and just accept it and just keep plugging away. Yeah. Elton said, I didn't check the SERPs on the best PC gaming. That was just an example of how a supporting page in my site outranks the main page keyword. Yep. Yeah. Supporting page is outranking the main page. It's not a normal. It's not necessarily keyword cannibalization either. It may be just kind of just how you have the page structured and all that stuff. In Google, the bot just thinks it's more relevant. Personally, I don't really go after too much about switching those back. As long as one of them ranks and the link to the one that leads to conversions is very evident on the one that's ranking, if it's not the one that leads to conversions, then I'll leave it alone. I won't put too much work into it. I'll let Google figure that out, and I'll just work on the conversion of the page to drive that to where I want them to go. So instead of having a sales page show up, for example, I have a landing page instead, and I'm totally cool with that. And if Google does that for you, just let it do its thing. Eventually, will it switch over? Kind of, maybe once more links kick in. Um, but in the meantime, just worry about conversions. And if you can get good at the conversion stuff too, the keyword cannibalization is not going to be all that big of an issue to you anymore, because you'll be down and you know how to handle that. All right, guys and gals, thank you very much for watching. That's been an hour. I appreciate all of you. Again, I said last week I was going to have the stupid phone thing. I just haven't had any time to test it, and I'm not going to go live on untested thing. But I want to get that tested out, and then we will have the live YouTube. I'm probably going to work on the internet radio thing at the same time, and maybe do an hour before and after the YouTube show portion, right? To do the phone call stuff to give everyone the time to do that. But I don't know if I want to dedicate 3 hours of my time to all you people. Well, we'll see how that works out. I think it'll. I'm kind of excited about doing that phone call thing. I really want to hear your voices, talk to you, and get to connect a whole lot better with you, because we've all been living in the Zoom, the YouTube phase. Let's reach out, say hi, reach out and touch everyone. And thank you all. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you next